Press record. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Sonic Talk number 302. We won't say anything more about 301. 301, as you know, is also an HTTP status code for file not found, moved elsewhere, which was a bit like what last week was, actually. Even though I managed to pull it together in the edit, it was a bit of a nightmare. Skype just, I think we had a power cut and or a brownout. There was a flicker of light and the streaming machine froze, and then Skype quit later on. Oh, it was a nightmare. But hopefully this week it will all be beautiful. And I'm just keep glancing over here because I've set up my Raspberry Pi to be a permanent real-time stats counter. You can get Google Analytics and it'll tell you what's happening on the real time on the site, and it just sits there and it'll run like several massive HDMI screens with sort of real time stats. So I'm trying to see how many people we've got according to the stats there in the live VRL, even though there are over 50 people in the chat room. There only appear to be 9 people looking at the web page, according to Google Analytics, which I'm not sure that's right. Something's wrong somewhere. Yeah, we've room to improve Redwalks. Thank you. Anyway, thanks for listening to everybody. This is Sonic State Live. Obviously, we've got the live chat room. We've got if you're wondering what I'm talking about, maybe you're watching this on YouTube for the first time. sonicstate.com/live at 4 p.m. UK time, and we're here again, and I'm rambling, so I better start introducing some guests, otherwise there'll be trouble. So if I switch that button now, I'm going to go, and we'll start with Mr. We would have started with Gav Williams if I had the screen about right. I'm going to fix that right away. There we go. Gaz Williams there. Let me see. He's here. That's his little thing. Gaz Goldstar. Gaz looking very resplendent in actual full bandwidth video. Impressive stuff. What's happening? You must be not at home. It doesn't look like you're at your lowly garret. We know you've been working, so can you tell us anything more?
Well, I am. I'm at the Underworld HQ right now, working on the Carl Hyde solo project, which is going really well. Carl's actually just chipped off. He's gone to the Brits Awards, so hence that's why I've been allowed. I've been allowed to come and do the show, which is cool because normally it coincides with the show, which is a shame.
So you're rehearsing and what have you up there, yeah?
That's right. Yeah. We're getting ready for our first proper show, which is in Japan in beginning of April. So
wow. So there's a band and stuff.
Yep, it's a 4-piece band, and it's really nice actually. It's a kind of it's nice to be reunited with Angie Pollock. She's playing keyboards.
Angie. She played keyboards for Goldfrapp and Peter Gabriel, and on the Popeye thing that you did as well, didn't she? Right.
That's right, and big thanks to Dave for sorting this one out, because it's a great, really good fun. There's a really lot of good feeling going on, and yeah, it's really nice. It's really come together quite nice now, and I'm enjoying it immensely.
Excellent.
Yeah, because
you're getting good sandwiches too.
We've been looked after. Yeah, it's
excellent. That's the most important thing.
What's good for me though as well is that I'm continuing my little odyssey into sort of bass synthesizer. So I'm using my bass synth again, like I used on the show, the opera I did last year. So using lots of patches, lots of different sounds.
That's the Roland thing, right? The Roland.
The GR55.
Yeah.
Okay. But have been finding limits to the triggering really, because some of the things, the triggering is just.
I get, yeah. Well, we found that when we're doing stuff with Goldfrapp stuff is when you're trying to do kind of like maybe 8th or 16th bass lines that have to be quite constant velocity. It's pretty hard to emulate that kind of thing. Is that the stuff you're getting?
Well, I've been finding ways to do it, but what I was finding was, in order to get the sensitivity right, I was having to ramp the sensitivity right up so it wouldn't do any false triggering, and then I'd have to play really, really hard, and I was getting, big blisters on my
mashed up fingers, yeah.
But it's cool. It's cool.
There is also the possibility that you could just have like a little keyboard at the side for those lines, you know, or maybe strap on.
Keyboard schmeeboard.
Okay, well that's up to you. I'm just saying. Anyway, Gaz, thank you for joining us. Songsurgeon.co.uk. Follow Gaz at Gaz Goldstar. All of those good things, and we'll also go back to let's see who we've got over here. Well, we'll say hello to Mr. Mark Tinley over there in the east of England. How you doing, Mark?
Hello. I'm very well, thank you. Good afternoon.
I'm glad to have you. The half term is now over. And
well, yeah, it's bizarre though, because my child goes to school in Cambridgeshire and I live in Bedfordshire, but it's about 10 miles away, Cambridgeshire. So half term for Cambridgeshire was last week, but half term for everyone else is this week. So none of the kids are at school where I live this week, but I have when I drive him to school and there's all kids wandering around with no uniforms on. So it's sort of weird, but anyway,
gotcha.
It is over for me, anyway.
Anyway, Mark Tinley, of course, sound artist, putting together. You're working with the Duran people, aren't you? You've got an album coming out, isn't that right? With Nick?
March the 11th, yes.
Yes. Plug it then.
I did work on it in 1996 or something. And Nick found the master tape and went, oh, this is rather good. We should release this. And actually, it's kind of weird because it's got a very contemporary kind of feel to it. And it's all about internet and reality TV and none of those.
So it's very, very pertinent.
So, no, it's kind of visionary, I suppose.
Ah, okay. Well, thank you very much for joining us. I just want to say, Gaz is probably wondering what all these references to Holly Valance and Holly in the chat room might be, and that's because we were hoping to have a new guest on, who is a chap called Jem Godfrey, who is basically a bit of a superstar keyboard player. Behind the scenes, you may not have heard of him, but I mean, he's written loads of kind of big pop tunes. Got Ivor Novello's worked with the kind of X Factor crowd as well. So right in the kind of thrusting kind of the vanguard of cheesy pop, I suppose you could say. But at the same time, he's been playing with Steve Vai, and he's got the kind of prog rock thing called Frost. So you know that's what those references to Wiggs and Holly are, because they were saying, oh, maybe you can. If Gaz can't make it, maybe you can get Holly Valance instead. You see, and there was the references going. So that's what's going on there.
I met Jem. I met him.
Oh, have you?
Yes, I bought a keyboard off him. I bought a Blofeld keyboard off him, and just but I didn't realise all that background either.
No,
nice guy.
Yeah, really nice chat. I don't, but anyway, he couldn't make it the last minute, but he says he will be on at some point. And that brings me to last, but certainly by no means least, Dave Spears sporting a very Apple circa 1990s black polo neck there.
Yeah,
Dave Spears, of course, GeForce Software, or should I say, have you been for a job interview at Apple?
Yeah, I'm taking over the whole of the audio division, and carving it up into tiny pieces. Yes. No, I should be sensible if I'm wearing a black polo neck. No, it's actually a cardigan.
Okay, that's acceptable then. Dave Spears, of course, GeForce Software makers of fine software instruments and Reason rack extensions and many other things too. In fact, lots of great videos on YouTube Dave's been putting together. You should check those out too.
I'm just going to post another one, actually. I've just finished another one. We got a new toy the other week. Yeah, well, it's actually the little step. I don't know whether you can see it. Can you see it there? Yeah.
Is that a step sequencer?
Yeah, it's a step sequencer for the OB8, the 8 voice. So I was kind of like, oh yeah, let's do something on that, and then juxtapose it with something software, because everyone goes, oh, hardware is not, software is not as good as that. And I'm like, oh come on.
Oh, honestly,
stupid.
Yeah. What do they know? In fact, I didn't put this in, but there was. Have you seen there's that step sequencer thing that runs in Renoise, which I didn't know anything about Renoise. Multi-platform DAW that runs on Linux as well, and you can join up loads of Novation launch pads into one massive kind of step sequencer that runs, and that looked quite cool. There's a news item about it. That we posted last week. It's kind of funky.
Oh, I'll check that out.
Yeah,
I'm in love with step sequences at the minute.
I never got into step stuff, but what do I
They're
know?
just brilliant ideas tools, and just kind of really on the fly little moments of inspiration.
Okay.
Oh, we also got another little synth over here. You want to hear this one?
Oh, come on then.
Oh, you can't. I've turned all the volume down.
Well, what is it? I can't see it.
It's called a Minute Moog. and it's like a Moog satellite, but rarer, and it's got 2 oscillators, and it sounds really good. Hang on.
Okay, we're going to get a treat now. Here we go.
I just want to play how amusing it is, because it is really good. Hey, okay, little single oscillator.
Excellent.
Like
I
that.
can hear it's got that Moog drive in it as well.
2 oscillators. It's quite good, isn't it?
I like that little jazzy grace note you put there in the in the model there. Very taking liberties with craft work there. I don't mind. Nobody minds a bit, but nice work. And also, you avoid the publishing because obviously, we'll get hammered. The amount of attention this podcast get, lawyers all over the place. God.
It's like craft work, but it's jazz.
Yeah, it's like daft work. There's a show title there. Maybe. Right, let's see. Where are we? Well, let's go straight in. I know, Dave, you'll be very excited about this because basically this was from last week that we didn't get time for. So I shall hit play now, and then you can just... well, I won't cut to you immediately because I don't want to catch you doing anything that can't be shown on camera. And I'm hoping that it's actually going to play now. Come on, play. There we go. Now this is the trailer for the kind of extended version of I Dream of Wires. Lovely camera work, all this lovely bit of slider work there. Oh, look at that. I better talk over it because obviously, again, this might trigger the YouTube copyright machine. But this is, the extended trailer. They've basically, the I Dream of Wires, there was a trailer out of this last year. This is the hardcore edition, which is going to come out on 2 DVDs. It's 4 hours long. It's got loads of extra stuff. And if you really want to spend a bit of extra money, you can buy the, you get a free module version as well, which is a battery acid module, Eurorack module by Hex Inverter. This is just full of modular stuff. And it's quite interesting. It's nice to see Eric Berber in there from Metasonics, not swearing, amongst and lots and lots of other people, but just lots of beautiful stuff on synthesizers. And this does sound quite nice. I'm seeing fast forward it to some Talking Head stuff. It's a very long.
It's definitely someplace to.
So many great.
There's
sounds that
Tony
sound
Rolando from
fantastic.
Make Noise.
But interface.
And also there's a bit of that,
Vince.
it's, something's really...
It's a star-studded cast.
It's just
Don't know who that
fantastic.
is.
It's so beautiful.
That 904 filters.
All that. Hardcore edition. But yeah, as I flip around, and what's great, there seems to be a load of stuff
I
about.
can badmouth the 5U guys if you want.
There seems to be a lot of people basically describing just how their lives would have been very different if they hadn't got into modular electronics. And if some people saying that if they discovered these things when they were young, they'd never have married and had children and that kind of stuff. Just great stuff. And I know, Dave, you were really. Gaz has dropped off, but I'm gonna if I pop that there. I know, Dave. Oh, I don't want that. Dave, you were very excited by this, so I'm going to let you start. Have you ordered yours? I did. It's actually really quite reasonable. It's not shipping until June. It's $40, including worldwide shipping, for two DVDs worth. So 4 hours.
4 hours. Yes. I predict a worldwide shortage of Kleenex after this is released.
Screen cleaners.
So get your orders in now and pop down the old Boots chemist shop and get your Kleenex now, because there is going to be quite a lot of I don't know what the word to use is really. No, it's really good. Even that intro is just sort of massively long and borderline pornographic, isn't it? I mean,
it is. It's loving.
nice to see Benj
It's
there
lovingly
and all sorts of people.
created, isn't it?
Yeah, and actually, it was interesting because they were looking for funding about regarding this maybe last year, something like that. And it was something that we were seriously thinking about, kind of, just throwing some money at, but we didn't. And that kind of makes it even more exciting to see, actually. I mean, there were loads of things, even just about the intro that I liked. There were loads of people in there. It was, like I say, it was great to see Benj and John Fox, and that whole thing with Gary Newman was really interesting. And what I really liked is the slight tension between the Eurorack people and the large format people, which is really, I think that could be very entertaining.
It's bizarre, isn't it? Oh, There we go. We have Gaz back again, so I'm going to just we'll go over there. It's funny, isn't it? How that'll work. And Paul Schreiber, interestingly enough, for Modular of the Month, saying that that he thinks actually you should be able to do better than Moog these days, because I mean that was almost accidental, some of the sounds that he made, the drive into the filter and what have you. And he's got a point in a way in saying, actually actually, if you're coming at it, with what we now know on top of the stuff that Bob obviously pioneered, let's not forget, but that he it should be possible to make even more great sounding modules because of the advances. Or do you think he was perhaps being a little bit over the top? I don't know.
Oh, I mean, I do kind of agree, and I think that's probably the kind of large format versus the Euro rack thing, is that you're getting quite a few sort of experimental stuff. I mean, I'm quite a big fan of that hex inverter stuff, and we've bought a large format modular, and keep saying to Chris, yeah.
You did it? That must be in what, like in the last 10 days?
No. We bought it a while ago, but it's being built over the next few months, and then we'll be sent to the new place where it'll probably take pride of place until I blow it up or something. But I was saying to Chris, maybe it might be a point for, because Chris doesn't play anything, but he has got very musical ear and a really kind of matrix logical mind. So I was saying to him, maybe if he went the Euro rack route, and
I tried to pimp it. I tried to give him the our spare case, but he wouldn't have it.
Yeah,
now it's gone.
What you need to do is upset him, because when he gets upset, he then has to have a little bit of retail therapy, and normally I'm the recipient of that.
Oh, okay. I'll think.
Do you fancy one of those? And I'll go, no, thanks. And then usually we can kind of raise the stakes until he's just at the point of bursting into tears. And then...
I don't feel it's. I need to do that. But interestingly, the thing that comes up in the trailer is, obviously, it's for the older gentleman with failing eyesight. The large format stuff seems to work very well, and that's a sort of. It's
definitely. In fact, funnily enough, I was picking up some of the gear from Kent yesterday, and I said to him about it, and he said, "Yep, eyesight." I don't want these tiny little knobs. And he was saying that's one of the reasons why they made the IMP2 controller so big, is obviously we're all over 40 and we need to be able to see what we're turning now.
I like the idea of having a kind of Brazil style massive magnifying panel that's on the end of one of these things that you just sort of like and then you can look really mad, and maybe a couple of head torches or something like that. I don't know. Gaz, did this thrill you? Have you seen the trailer?
Yeah, I thought it looks really cool. It made me think it'd be nice to have a collective screening somewhere, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that's an idea. Yeah.
So I don't know if there's somewhere we could do it, maybe in Bath or something, and see if anyone wants to come down to watch it. I think it'd be quite fun to watch with a total
4
nerd
hours
out together. I think
a load of drunk musos. Yeah, that would be hilarious, wouldn't it? I predict a riot.
Great. I mean, I'm on the edge of getting a modular. It's something I've been wanting to do for a while. Although I'm thinking of going the Euro rack format. So I am interested in it. I haven't really got much to add though, because I'm not currently
not very modularistic at the moment. It's definitely got a kind of interest. I mean, there's a chap who's just started getting involved in Sonic who's really into modulars, and we might do some kind of how to build some things with him if we can persuade him to get in front of the camera. And he's really into all of that scene, so I suspect this is something for him as well. But yeah, great. I mean, it's interesting to get excited about the idea of a film about synths, and I think obviously the fact that now we can all film these beautiful things on our DSLRs is a great help, because now it can look nice as well and like proper. I know. Mark, are you thrilled by the concept of a film about modular synthesizers?
Well, it's my birthday on March the 18th, and now I know what to ask for my birthday. So yes.
Well, you're going to get a modular or a video, because this thing's not out till June the 1st. So you'll only get.
I'll have to have a pre-order for my birthday. No, I'm not going to get. I mean, I'm a complete extremist. I'm either on or I'm off. So when it comes to modulars, I loved the Nord modular because it was like this little tiny thing and everything was inside it, and it was like you could build things with it and make modular synthesis, and I loved that, having it in the computer. But the other extent of it is that HMV Mark II thing, which is just like a room. You walk into this massive room, and the room is the synthesizer, and I just it's like it.
Oh, the Schneider's
mental.
Borough place in HMV in London.
One of the first things that they showed there. He said it was
the RCA.
Another Mark II, RCA Mark
Yeah,
II. Okay,
got you.
I'm getting my acronyms muddled up. But I mean, if I had the money and a big enough house, that is how I would have my house. It just looks extraordinary. It's like something out of the Batman set, isn't it? I mean, it's just mental.
Yeah, it definitely has. I mean, can you imagine the heat that would be generating? It would be absolutely kind of monstrous. In fact, the guy, I mean, you'd have to have you'd spend almost as much in air conditioning in a year as you would on the actual unit, I'd imagine.
Yeah, unless you lived in somewhere cold. You could go and live in Scotland, I suppose, in an old castle with that. That would be even better. And to come out with like slicked back hair and fangs every so often.
It's a great idea, and that's. I mean, I'm sure the thing about this is going to be a vehicle. Hopefully, there'll be lots of. Maybe there'll be an album out of it as well, because I mean, presumably they're going to be using quite a lot of music bed stuff in this. I would assume. Yeah. So there could be.
Who did the music on the trailer?
Now that did actually come up in the YouTube video stuff, which I cannot find at the moment. I don't know, but it does get credited. I just have to. You'll have to look at, if you look in the comments for the YouTube video. The YouTube version of that rather than the Vimeo one, or maybe it's the Vimeo one. It does say so. There are
nice kind of modular folk music.
Modular folk music. Yes, it did almost, didn't it? In fact, I was looking. It passed me by now. I found some. There was a discussion. I think it was on one of the Reddit threads, which was basically said, it's not all about electronic dance music. Check this out. And there's quite. I mean, because when you look at some of the other things that people are doing, there's lots of classical interpretations as well with modulars and processing and what have you. So it's there are lots of potential for use in it. And again, it's got that. Well, I mean, whenever I fire up the modular and have it plugged in for any reason, it's great. HT in the chat room says, "Oh, great, 3.5 hours of arpeggios," which is probably not far off the truth there. Although I think there will be other aspects to it as well, hopefully. But I think we look forward to. I think it's June the 1st. Let me see if you can pre-order now. If I switch to here, we should be able to see. Pre-order now. 2 DVDs, epic 4 hours. For those of you outside America, it doesn't matter. It's 24 frames a second. Where is it? Shipping note, Blu-ray. You get it on Blu-ray. You can get it on 2 DVDs. Oh, I got it on 2 DVDs because I don't have a Blu-ray player. Although there might be one in my computer, I suppose. When does it come out? I thought it was June the 1st because I can't see there. No, in fact, I'm just not providing enough information there. So if I stop talking, then it might mean that I don't say anything that's incorrect. Well, less likely that I'll say something that's incorrect. I mean,
never let that stop me in the past.
But yeah, if you go to idreamofwires.org, there it is. idreamofwires.org is the place to check it out and then pre-order. And I recommend you do, because presumably it'll help them with the funding to get the thing finished as well. I mean, I like the idea. It's sort of a worthy crowdsourcing style project or pre-order style project. So I think yes, thumbs up from me, all 2 of them. And right, we're moving on to something a little bit different now. Let's try this one.
Sounds like a really wet phaser or something. It's like
This is basically the prototype VO96, which is Paul Vo, who was the guy behind the electronics of the Moog guitar. Notice I said mode correctly there. I'm getting therapy to hypnotise me into saying mode correctly. I'm not sure what I need to visualise for that to happen. But these are some shots of what it is. This is called acoustic synthesis, and it's a little sort of add-on that clips onto an acoustic guitar, and it's got sort of transducers and stuff in there that will actually vibrate the strings. So it works in a similar way. So it has positive and negative phase vibration, so it can mute and enhance them. And this is a very. What's so interesting about this is he calls it acoustic synthesis, which basically means what's happening is purely mechanical. So the string is vibrating and being manipulated by this sort of complex DSP under the hood that creates these vibrations. And it's quite an interesting idea. I mean, I'm not sure that we've heard the best of it there, but I think the first chap there was perhaps playing to its strengths a bit more. But it's a very interesting concept, I think, this idea of mechanical synthesis. I've not come across it anywhere else. And I don't want to know what you thought about it. I mean, Gaz, you're currently doing a lot of guitar synthesis or bass guitar synthesis. I don't know if there's such a thing for vibrating bass strings. I mean, I guess, can you use an EBow with bass strings? I mean, this is so much more than just an EBow, but does it sound interesting?
Yeah, it sounds great, doesn't it? I mean, I use an EBow on my bass. I use it pretty much only on the G string, just because of the sheer mass, I think, to get the string to vibrate. But it works quite nice. But I thought that this thing is really cool. I'd love to get my hands on one, and I've got an acoustic bass I'd like to try it on. But the only thing is the sound hole on my acoustic bass is up on the top. It's actually displaced from
right, okay.
So I don't know if it would work. But I think it's really interesting, and I think the thing that makes it interesting for me is that it's going to sound different on every acoustic guitar, isn't it? You know, it's really going to resonate depending on the sort of the acoustic properties of a particular guitar. I think that's what's quite interesting. It's always going to sound slightly different. So yeah,
and I'm guessing
the idea is,
I'm guessing it's a bit like sort of additive synthesis in a way. I mean, it's hard for me because I can only hear these really high, almost inharmonic tones that come in, which it must be very difficult to kind of, manipulate them if you've got a guitar that could be different. So it'd be interesting to see how it actually works, in conjunction with the.
And I'm wondering if it's sort of, if people are using like open tunings with it, so all the kind of strings are, sympathetically resonating, or I must admit, Nick, I haven't actually really had a chance to look at the notes very much. So
no, that's all right. Well, don't
really
worry. I mean, but it's as an interesting concept. I mean, I don't know, Dave. What the Moog guitar caused a massive splash when it actually first came out, didn't it? But I don't know how it did, in terms of selling. I mean, I guess it was never destined to be like a mass production instrument. Whereas something like this, you could see clipping this onto an acoustic could have a lot more potential for sort of reaching more people, perhaps.
Yeah, it's the fact that it's an add-on, I think, is quite appealing. I sent it to a couple of... In fact, it's weird because normally my two benchmarks are John here is a guitarist, programmer, guitarist, and obviously Carl is receptive to stuff. So anything that comes along like this, and I did get a Moog guitar for Carl to try out, and he didn't get on with it. But I think that was probably because it either felt like a banjo when the sound is sucked away from those strings,
right, yeah, I got you.
Or it ended up like a kind of polyphonic EBow, and I think that a lot of people were, or some people were looking for, something different. The fact that this is an add-on gets rid of one of the big hurdles of the Moog guitar, and that was the price, because most people were kind of really astonished at the price.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know how much this is yet. It's still concept stage, but it looks like something that could be made, I'm guessing.
And the Moog guitar was pig ugly, don't forget.
I guess I don't remember. I think the wood was nice and what have you, but where I saw, because I saw it being used well, it seems to work better. Those sounds sound better when they're processed additionally. So there's sort of drive or ambience or whatever on top of them, so you can get more interesting sounds. I think whether it's just the string vibrating, like I say, it seems to enhance these sort of strange harmonics, which unless they can be suppressed by DSP more, then there's something about it that jangles with me. I don't know. What do you think, Mark?
I'm intrigued. I think it's perhaps a new take on things like the sitar. It almost sounds like it has a nasal kind of wow wow kind of quality to it, which reminds me of the filtering that you get in MP3.
Right.
So it's almost like if you took a sitar tone and then put it through a wah wah that cycled through the 11 or 13, I can't remember how many it is, filter bands of an MP3. So it was creating those weird bell-like transitions, but also sounding like someone going wah. It sort of sounds like that, and it sounds interesting, I think. I'd kind of like to play around with one.
Yeah, I think it, depending on
the person playing Stairway to Heaven at the end.
Yeah, that really shouldn't have happened. They should have
Stairway to Heaven.
They should have had the edit there. Like, don't play Stairway to Heaven, for goodness sake. It hasn't been long enough.
Somebody should have come in with a sign.
And also, it did nothing.
Sorry.
But it did nothing for the sound of the thing, because it didn't show the thing in its best light to play that with it. I think what he was playing earlier, the Pat Metheny style, kind of almost like jazz runs and kind of letting that ring out into synth tones and stuff, that sounded really interesting to me. And I wish I could play more like that myself, because I kind of feel that, that Pat Metheny kind of area is a really nice area to be in. But it sounded like it was suited to that.
Yeah.
And also these loop guys, the guys using all the kind of loop station stuff. That's first thing when I sent it to John. I think he came back saying, actually, there's this kind of new generation of picker guitarist loop station guys who would probably get on with it.
Yeah, I mean,
Right.
I think you're right. I think what we were hearing were people who played guitar traditionally being sort of enhanced by it. But I imagine, there would be a much greater sonic potential for people who adapted their content and playing style to kind of... to work. Yeah, it was called the VO96, Paul Vo.
It's kind of organic, isn't it? I mean, it has an organic quality to it, but it's using a computer to enhance the way that organic quality works. So it's almost works like a resonant instrument, like a sitar, but it does something clever as well. I mean, I think it's something that they could develop personally. It looks good.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? I mean, and in some ways, perhaps, if it does continue to take off, that there might be ways of modifying existing acoustic builds to take advantage of the additional resonance that this can provide.
How much does it cost?
It's a bit
How
like...
much is it?
Actually, I mean, this is still concept. It's not made it to production yet, but I mean, I think it's working towards that, definitely. Because I mean, Paul Vo's been working on this since like 1979. He started out, he kind of came up with this polyphonic sort of EBO type thing, built. I'd got it to work, and then the first commercial release was really the Moog thing. I mean, this thing will control up to 96 harmonic controls, it says, which I'm not quite sure how that works. I'd be really interested to see. So if you can sort of tilt the harmonic content of certain strings and damp or emphasize certain harmonics, that would be very, very interesting. But I couldn't kind of hear that in hearing, what I was hearing there.
Wasn't he doing that with his hand, though? He seemed to be doing something in front of the sound hole that seemed to be making a difference to the sound, or was that just my imagination?
I didn't spot that. Maybe you saw something I didn't, but yeah, quite possibly. So yeah, that we don't know if it's going to have a price or anything. Oh, who's that?
Do you remember that thing?
Yep.
Do you remember that thing that you could get in the 80s, I think it was, where you could clamp it onto the back of an acoustic guitar, and it had like a reverb springs in it. It was like a kind of so you could have like a reverb on your acoustic guitar.
No, I'd never heard of that.
My brother used to have one. Yeah, it had little kind of saddles that go underneath the strings, and it attached to sort of like some reverb springs, and sort of like a big box attached to the acoustic guitar, and then you had reverb then, acoustic reverb.
Wow,
that was quite fun.
Interesting idea.
Wow.
No, I never.
Yeah, I haven't seen them
when you kicked it.
Yeah, or dropped it, or hit it.
I haven't seen them for years and years now, but it was pretty cool.
Wow.
I'll try and have a look.
Remember the Gizmotron? I'm old enough to remember that.
A bit.
Gizmotron? I don't even know. No, I'm glad to say I have no knowledge of what any of you are talking
Godly
about.
and Cream. And it was like a EBO, but it ran on wheels.
Oh yeah, and it had little.
So you kind of press the thing
little
down
ticklers.
and the wheels. Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
It was the pre-runner of some modern day sex toys, I'm told.
Yes. Yes. Allegedly, yes.
Really?
Yeah,
In
no,
fact,
I have no idea whether it was or not.
ago, at NAMM, I got Carl this really cool little thing. In fact, I think it was rubbish, but it sounded quite cool at the time. You plugged it in your guitar cable hole, and it had a little light thing on it, sensor on it. And when you went like that over it, it would trigger on and off. Like it would literally act like a gate, so you could kind of like play a chord and then go. And it was quite posy and stuff.
Ah, well,
But I think it was.
Ah, okay. But you get something similar, which are those volume pots that you put on a guitar. So it's a bit like people use with rhythm and treble switches on Les Pauls, where you can go, you can gate things, and you can do the same thing. It's like a sprung volume pot that you can get retrofitted to any guitars. In fact, I'm pretty sure Chapper's demonstrated one, and it was really cool because you can kind of really tap out quite complicated rhythms, like on it, and very good for, I guess, if you wanted to do I don't know, Who covers or something, I don't know, or other synthy kind of textures or whatever.
Just be Johnny Marr for a day.
Arpeggiated arse ticklers, he says in the chat room. How I would so love to use that as the show title, but I feel that perhaps it would go a bit too far for certain Christian organisations and the internet.
Oh. Asprey is the name of that reverb thing for acoustic guitars.
Asprey, okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Excellent. But anyway, the Paul Vo thing. If you check his website out, it's really well written. There's some very interesting pieces about how he came up with the name and what he's been up to. It's just like it seems like a really nice bloke the way he's written the site, and it's got lots of extra information in it. So yeah, quite good that. So Mark, this is one for you because you brought this one on, and I don't really know what to say, so I'm just going to play it, and you'll have to then explain yourself.
No cycles! No cycles! outside! outside! That way! This generation! Good division! That's it!
This gets filed under imaginative uses of music technology in unusual situations. And Mark, you brought this one to my attention. This is called. She's called. What's she called?
Musical Ruth.
Musical Ruth. That's right. So, in fact, the email that you sent, in fact, that was a musical youth sample. You get it? Past the Dutch upon the left-hand side. You said this is you in 10 years' time. Is this, have you planned your future? You're going to be driving around shopping precincts on a pimped-up mobility scooter.
It's very Monty Python, isn't it?
Oh,
I mean, it's very British in humour, I think. But Gina's nephew, I think, I can't remember. Yeah, I think Gina's nephew was in Blackpool and saw this guy driving through Blackpool on that thing and videoed him and sent us the video. And I was watching it and I said, that is something we have to discuss on the Sonic State podcast because it's like the most bizarre use of music technology. So then I thought I'd better do a search for like musical nun on mobile piano, and then I found loads of video on YouTube as well. So he has a website and he goes all around all the seaside resorts doing this.
It's brilliant. I have to say, I looked at because I checked it out and I looked on the site, and a lot of the samples are, I mean, maybe it was all filmed in the same season, but the same gag or whatever. But obviously, it's just such a bizarre concept, and I thought it is very Python, isn't it? And certainly very original. Python. And it very loud, really impressively loud.
Quite quickly, but
yeah, I don't think you'd want to see it more than once a month, maybe.
Yeah.
But great. In fact, I think it certainly gets an award for most imaginative use. I couldn't make out what the keyboard was, but I presume it's got some sort of sampling in there, or maybe he's got a SP202 or something like that. Like I remember I came on the podcast after the fair was in town, and I noticed all the people at the fair have those little Boss pad samplers, and they go hold tight, and it's just got all of the kind of the stuff that you say coming up, stop me and buy one, and exactly, and all of that is just so it's pre-produced stuff that they just play, and there's sort of a bored-looking carnival person just pressing them sort of every once in a while, and if they get really creative, they go hold tight, but. This one has certainly more humour to it, that's for sure. Dave, have you ever seen this before?
No, I haven't. No, and yes, I'm not sure whether I'd like that coming up behind me in town when I was shopping. I'm quite grumpy when I do shopping, so
maybe when you're on your mobile, when you're at the stage when you're in your mobility scooter, you could have a kind of like scoot off with the nun.
Yeah, no, I promise I'm going to be the most miserable, cantankerous old bugger ever. That's my life statement.
You're just saving up for that future for yourself.
I can sneak up behind some youngster. Oh, get out of the way. Mate, with a sample, that would be fantastic. Yeah. But what's funny is when I saw that, so obviously I'm in builder's hell mode at the minute with the studio stuff being built. And the other day, it was time to meet the Windows man. So the Windows man comes around and shows us all the options for Windows. And I'm going, well, I just want ones that I can see through, please. That'll be handy. And it turns out that he is also a busker in Reading. He's mentioned Bath, Newbury, kind of all the way down the M4 corridor. And he takes with him like a little mini Eve Staff piano that's painted white, and he's got an umbrella, and I've seen him in town.
I've seen him, yeah.
And it's the same guy sat in front of me trying to sell me windows.
Busking and double glazing at the same time.
Yeah.
Can I have windows thick enough to stop me from hearing you, please?
It was really funny. I didn't know what to say. Maybe your windows are so bad that you have to busk, or maybe your busking's so bad you got to sell double glazing. That's particularly harsh and very unfair.
Yeah, no, I've heard him. He's good. He plays kind of.
Well, I asked him. I said, "Don't you get hassled like all the time?" Because Chris and I went to a Wakey gig, and he comes around with a keyboard, and I just felt this overwhelming urge just to kind of press all the notes down. And he said, the worst place he goes is in my town because it's full of girl gangs that threaten to smash his piano up. The further towards Bath he goes, the nicer everyone becomes. And in Bath, he never gets any trouble at all. But quite a lot of druggies in Oxford. There you go.
He obviously hasn't come across me or you yet.
Yeah.
In Bath, yeah. It's a great one. Gaz, I think you can appreciate, you could probably appreciate this, couldn't you? The musical nun.
Yeah, it's great fun. I mean, I was thinking of what I'd seen that was anything like it, and well, I haven't actually seen anything like that, but I had seen something. It did remind me of something that I saw in Glastonbury Festival once, which I thought was very ingenious. And this chap had built a drum kit on a platform, which was then powered by a golf caddy trolley, and he could basically he could drive around. You drive around playing drums at the same time as actually driving around on this thing, but playing drums.
Excellent.
And that was amazing. It was so cool. And he was using those Arbiter flats. They're just like the skins of drums.
Okay,
without the shells.
Oh God, I remember what they're called. Yes, they used to get them on Roto. Yeah, but you had them on big sheet of pressed metal, and there were 3 in a hole. Very 80s. Very Thompson twins.
Yeah. But it was amazing though, because he was actually a fantastic drummer. So he'd just be just driving around, and he was he must have been steering with his feet somehow, because he was just driving around the kind of place, playing drums but driving around as well.
There was a guy there was a guy at NAMM actually who was I think he was disabled. I think he was maybe missing either part of his legs or both legs, I'm not sure, but he was driving around and he had like a electronic drum kit and a massive speaker in the back, and it was a mobility scooter, and he was just sort of driving around playing drum solos. He was really good actually, and I think we shot there's a bit of video up on our YouTube channel. I think Rich got a bit of him. I forget the name of him, whatever, but it was really good actually. Not something you see every day in at NAMM, but also a kind of really brilliant use of obviously the technology he used himself to get around, that he pimped up to the degree that he could actually now go around and play and what have you. And I guess he must have done gigs and played in bands or whatever. I'm not entirely sure, but yeah, that was good. Excellent stuff.
I've always wanted to do it in a car. I had the idea of putting huge subwoofers in the back of the car and then some waterproof speakers underneath the arches, and then having like loads of samples from Santapod and car crashes and all sirens and all sorts of sirens you'd probably get into trouble for. But like you see these young lads driving around in their Novas with these huge straight through exhausts playing their drum and bass or something, to come into their midst and then to hit like a V8 doing a quarter mile in 3 seconds, like right through the middle of them, would be just really funny, I think.
Excellent. That's a great idea. In fact, that reminds me of there was a section in the MIDI 30 years of MIDI panel that we covered last week or the week before, where Craig Anderton said that he's got a mate who, whenever he does a gig, he's got a sampler full of hums, buzzes, and crackles.
Oh, yeah.
So he just plays for the to make the sound guy's life a misery. Which sounds a bit harsh, actually, but I'm sure it's quite good fun. But yeah, that was great. That was, if you want to see it, musicalruth.com. Quite simple. And there she is, or he is, right there on his pimped up, sort of very similar to a Liberace sort of style. But yeah, you're right. It is very, very Monty Python. But nice find there. Nice find indeed. What's next? Ah, yes, of course. Actually, that reminds me, because I think that Mike Grigg wanted to join us for this one, and I don't know if he's online. I don't know if we can. Let me see if I can find him, because he said he was going to try and get there. But I'm guessing he's not. He was doing a course, so he won't. We'll just have to play it. This was the brilliant headline. I'm thinking about writing a piece on it, just because I could use the headline and see how it works on the stats for real-time kind of people interested. Blue Monday started with a fart sample, which is plainly not totally true. But this was the article in The Guardian by Gillian. Oh God. I've got it written here somewhere. Yeah, Gillian Gilbert, who was basically the keyboard player in Blue Monday, how they kind of started it all off and how it was all very accidental that it worked out that way. And they were basically just trying to emulate Donna Summer and sort of New York club stuff. And the fact that they had started out with Bernard and the other guy and Peter Hook were trying to find out how to use the sampler, and they were just trying it out by sampling farts, and that's how they ended up using it. And I've got a little video here, which I think is this one. Let me see. No, it's not that one. It's this one, which is them live at the BBC, which actually should start a bit later on in the clip, if I can get that. Which has got some great percussion in it as well. I don't know what those pads are, but I definitely would like. Here we go. This is where it's supposed to start. Not quite. Yeah, great shorts by Bernard Sumner there. Here we go. It's coming up in a sec. This is playing live, and what's great about this live performance is it's just really quite crap. I mean, it's just all out of tune. It's brilliantly analog, which is fantastic. So yeah, it pans round and then he starts playing these amazing pads, which I want to know if anybody knows what they are. Because they're in a suitcase as well, which makes them even more desirable to me. Anything that makes a noise like that, look at that. That's just awesome. So anyway, the whole kind of thing was, there are several discussion points on this, potentially on this topic, which I'm glad to say as I look towards the faces of my panel, who are all blank to a man.
Simmons suitcase. That's what that was.
It's what? Sorry, Dave.
Simmons suitcase. That's what that was.
Simmons suitcase. Did it have the brain in it as well?
No.
So it's just the pads that you'd.
Yeah, Dolby used to use one. Oh God, who was Dolby's drummer? I knew him years ago. Oh, Andy Duncan.
I definitely want some of them. See, I'm thinking there must be a way, right? You got a Rhodes suitcase, got a Synthia AKS, which I have in a suitcase. We got the new Buchla system, which would be in a suitcase, and then these Simmons drums, which are going to be in a suitcase. I'm kind of, I'm thinking that there could be a suitcase band coming up fairly soon. There must be a suitcase bass possible, or suitcase guitar. I mean, it's got to be there. I would guess. Anyway, But what apart from the fact that we know Blue Monday went on to sort of sell gazillions of copies and all of those things, excuse me, and they used the emulator one for snatches of choir-like voices from Kraftwerk's album Radioactivity, as well as recordings of Thunder and what have you. And they worked out to use it by Yeah, that's right. It was Bernard and Stephen Morris, the drummer. But what was interesting about this is it seems to be there's quite often a mistake in this genre of music where technology is really cutting edge, where a mistake kind of creates a hit record. Because, I mean, otherwise, if you think about it too much, maybe it's actually going to be too premeditated. Do you think most of the I mean, Mark, you are a self-titled sort of sound artist. Do you think that the actual that it is down to the mistakes and the discovery that kind of creates the best in these things?
Ooh, I mean, I was really thinking about this last night because I remember this record coming out and them having this huge unprecedented success, and then everybody talking about, oh, New Order had something to do with like the New Order of the Golden Dawn, so it was all to do with Aleister Crowley, and oh, they must have been dabbling in witchcraft or black magic to have got this successful this quickly, and it's all impossible and blah 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 blah. But it's got to be down to like, well, a series of like right decisions that are just sort of made almost as flukes, aren't they? And the fact that I found it interesting that she said she wrote all of the programming down on strips of paper which she hung across the entire length of this room, and then she made a mistake, so the keyboard line's out of time.
Yeah.
And that actually kind of creates this kind of weird little push-pull counter melody kind of thing. But I think what makes this record a hit is the kick drum, actually.
Oh, this is the Oberheim DMX, yeah.
And that...
Yeah, I think that's it.
Like, when I first heard that in a club, and I was going to clubs at that time, it was just like, whoa, what is this? And you go and stand next to the speaker stag as a I don't know what I was, 18, 19-year-old or something, and I'm standing there, there's kick drums punching me in the chest, and then it's going...
Yeah, it was pretty. I mean, bass drum rolls
absolutely awesome.
Bass drum rolls are pretty unheard of, definitely.
And then there was something really kind of locked in about the whole thing. And then I think when MIDI became more prevalent, music did fall apart a bit more in terms of tightness when MIDI got used more, and there was something about this that was really incredibly tight. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this was done with MIDI, but
I don't know. There was I don't know what they were using there.
The tightness.
I'm not sure what they used there, but yeah, that was the Oberheim DMX drum machine, and they just wanted that thud basically, which was kind of the sound, I suppose.
See, I wish I'd known that then, because I was using a Lin and a drumulator and trying to get that sound.
And you couldn't get it.
I didn't know it was a DMX. If I'd known it was a DMX, we probably had access to one of those and probably could have got that exact sound. And we were fiddling around with this Lin trying to make it sound like that. So.
Okay. Synth Failed Muso in the chat room said also that what the idea with it was that they wanted to create a piece of music that they could program, walk on stage, press play, and walk off as a sort of concept. It sounds like a cheeky Mancunian idea, but interesting. So I know, Gaz, what do you think? Do you think it's accidents the best source of this kind of stuff, of creativity?
I love that idea, definitely. It's interesting, isn't it, that something so iconic, so famous could be, So yeah, I'm always listening out for mistakes when I'm working on stuff. I tend to love mistakes more than the artists. If I'm producing, I like the mistakes more than the artists who've made them, and I quite like. And I always look forward to hearing the mistake coming around. Some mistakes not, but a lot of mistakes I really like. I grow to love them, and the artist can be sometimes really, oh no, I hate that bit, and so I think you have to have an ear for mistakes in a way. I think it's I think it's a really important part of the creative process, but it's difficult though, isn't it? Because when you're working on things and your focus is just totally different. You know, the mistakes. It's easy to sort of just dismiss things, and So I really, I'm totally into that idea of mistakes, but I make plenty of mistakes myself, so I guess but yeah, it's interesting. I mean, we've been working on some material today. I can't really say too much about it, but it was quite interesting because what I was doing, what I'd prepared wasn't really working, and then I'd sort of done something then by mistake, and Carl was going, "Yeah, no, that's more like it," and I was like, "Oh, really?" So, and then that's ended up what we're using. So it is kind of, yeah.
Do you think it's? Do you think it's actually?
So,
the thing is, though, do you think it's actually possible to, when you make a mistake, you're usually playing something which is not premeditated. Okay, so sometimes it would be something that you wouldn't automatically reach for with muscle memory and all the things that you learn when you play an instrument. Is it? I mean, obviously it's possible to play them again, but is it harder to actually nail it the right way because your instinct is to sort of move it into your own technique, where what you've actually done is kind of potentially outside of that technique, and you wouldn't necessarily be able to do it if asked, if you see what I mean?
Yeah, no, good, very, very good point. Yeah, I mean,
unless it's you, of course, Gaz, which you're able. But you see what I
mean? Yeah. No, it's a very good point. I'm just trying to think. Like today, what it was. Carl thought that the sound I was using had like an octaver on and was kind of splitting the sound like an octaver can do, and sort of there was actually two bass lines going on at the time, and one was kind of, I think the way they were interacting was making it kind of sound as though it was like that gurgling, bubbling effect that octavers can do when they're not tracking very well. But it wasn't actually that. It was just a weird way that the two sounds were working together. And
okay, well,
yeah, and I'd sort of just. Oh well, sorry, I don't know. I'm just trying to see if it was relevant, but
no, I see what you're saying. I think that
basically, yeah.
I think that's it, though, isn't it? I mean, that's the thing that we often do ourselves. It's when we jam and we kind of just stream of consciousness stuff. There's this kind of, and I think it's actually quite a common issue with people who are perhaps not kind of totally nailing, not like completely trained jazz musicians who can just kind of go, yeah, I can do that again, that can come up with stuff and then you record all of it just in case you can never replicate it, and then maybe you can sample it and cut it up ever. I know, Dave, you probably would experience, when you're noodling on a synth, for instance, or that kind of thing, you can just you just record so that you can capture that moment, because you may never have those planets align again, right?
I may never hit those notes in that order again. No, it's definitely, I completely agree. And I love the whole happy accident thing. For me, I will even go, when that happens, I will even go, yes, and spend a little bit of time trying to rewind to what led me to that point. So yeah, all of those things really valid, I think, and very important, actually. I think that's the mark of a creative individual. Whereas actually with a musician who has a ton of technique but isn't necessarily very creative, will hit the right notes in the right order at precisely the right time. Other people interpret things through their slightly, in my case, addled brain and come up with other inversions of things.
No, it's interesting.
But it's all valid.
Well, it's instinct, isn't it? Instinct is often the key element in successful music. And
I would have big, huge discussions when Dale and I were going out as kind of rhythm section. I was so used to playing with a click as a drummer. I was very, very tight, but my technique wasn't up to much. So when we go and do gigs where there were multiple bands, all the drummers in the back room would be there practicing their paradiddles as fast as they possibly can. And it was just like some kind of really weird competition. But what was strange is that and I became not slightly paranoid, but I became a little bit concerned that I didn't have the same kind of technique as these guys. And Dale was always going, don't worry, you've got this one thing that nobody else has. And that is, first of all, accuracy, and feel is obviously the big thing. And what I noticed was that I ended up working with bands a lot more often than the other drummers, who were just basically overshadowing everything else with technique. And I think that's really valid when it comes to guitarists and keyboard players, because keyboard players can take up the entire spectrum of frequencies and annoy the pants off of everybody.
Yeah, no, well, that's true. Well, and drummers can just fill every individual space. With
I used to love doing that to annoy, actually.
Yeah, it does. I can vouch that it actually does annoy. So mission accomplished there, Dave. Thank you very much.
You do those really massively extended rolls over about 6 bars, you know.
Yeah, represent there. Well, speaking of massively extended rolls, that takes me on to this other thing, which is kind of I've got a sort of couple of bits to play, and the first one is this. And I hope this is going to work. Maybe a bit early, and I'm going to have to, again, talk over it, because it's probably going to require me to fast forward it so that we don't get yet. This is obviously Genesis Mama, which I'm not a fan of Genesis at all, never have been. But when I heard this again, and I'll explain why it came up, look at the wobble on that Fairlight. Look, on that stand, it's wobbling. He's got it. They just put it up there on something for this video shoot, and that is like 60 grand's worth of technology wobbling on a really crappy stand. I won't play anymore because we'll probably get busted, because I could only find this on sort of Vimeo and EMI Music ones, and they're extremely litigious. But the reason this came up was because I found on YouTube a kind of making of Mama, the album, which is the Genesis album. This is like all home movies from Phil Collins's obviously got a new camera where he's sitting there programming the titles and everything.
Nothing but the birds twittering and the leaves rustling.
And there's like 5 videos of this of, varying lengths. There's probably about an hour's worth of material of them in the studio during the recording of this.
Very nice. Very nice.
Which is quite an interesting documentary in itself, or at least would be if it was as interesting as I thought it was going to be. But Dave, you probably know where that studio was, don't you? Isn't it kind of around your neck of the woods?
No, it's in a place called Shalford Common, just outside Guildford.
Ah.
Do you want to know the name of the house? It doesn't exist anymore. No,
okay.
I won't say it.
No, it doesn't matter. But
that was his house.
Ah, okay. And then there's Hugh Padgham in there, and lots of kind of brilliant sort of references of technology of the day. The Euro monitors with the big blue foam horns, and the what was the other thing? The Acoustic Research AR-18s. Anyone remember those? Mark, you probably do. They were sort of the pre-runners of the NS10s. They were the near-field kind of full-range hi-fi speakers that everybody used as a reference point, apart from Oratones.
Yeah, I think I remember them, but I also remember Yuri B's are the ones with the blue cones, aren't they? Is that what you mean?
I think so. I'm going to see if I can find a shot of them somewhere, because they're just absolutely massive. And they had a light bulb in them, so when you really drove them hard, the light would go off, and that's how you knew that you were working the amps really, really too hard. I'm just looking to see if I can find a picture of them in this. They've got there's the shot of the. If I switch to that, there's the shot of the AR-18s, and then I think if I spin it around a bit, I think the Euros will show up. Using an AMEC desk by the looks of things. Neve AMEC. Yeah, I can't see them. It's all a bit kind of retro, obviously, but
my main monitors here are Acoustic Research monitors. They're really, really old. But I kind of know what they sound like, and I know they sound absolutely nothing like they're supposed to sound. In terms of, like, I'd put a Behringer, what are those, silver reference microphone on them and played some white noise through them, and they're miles and miles and miles off. But I kind of know what they sound like. So
yeah, well, that's the thing. In fact, actually, that's interesting. Where did he say it was? Sinners Music said that he's still using AR-18s and Oratones to monitor with in the chat room. So that it's what you know, isn't it? But back in the day before powered speakers, I know, Dave. Did you? I don't know whether you got anything from this. I don't know if you're a fan of Genesis or any of that lot. Or I don't know, but it struck me as a particularly talent-free and humorless kind of place to work. To be perfectly honest.
It's quite strange. There are so many people in that video that I knew at that time, and I was involved in that scene before this album, probably about '82, I guess. And it was really funny actually looking at some of the faces. There were guys who were with that band for like ever.
Yeah,
I was
the
going
crew
to become
was setting
a
up
kind of Genesis crew member. That's what I was kind of going to become.
Ah.
And in some ways, I feel I had a lucky escape. No, I'm not. Yeah, no, I won't go into any of that. What I will say is it was quite good for me on the gear spotting front because there was that movement drum computer, the little MPC, the orange thing, which one of those was recently up for sale. That was quite interesting. The Synclav, obviously, the Rhodes Chroma Emulator 1. There was so all of that, and Hugh Padgham looking like a young little lad, but it was a long time ago. It was a long, long time ago. Yeah, really interesting.
The one thing about this actually that I thought is, when I heard that, I remember that Mama must have had a really strong influence on me in terms of just the sounds and the kind of the scape and the, the kind of the world that. I'm not a big fan of what's his face's voice or whatever. I mean, although it's got a very distinct sound to it, I do quite like the kind of weird sort of note and the oddness of that and the kind of Grandmaster Flash evil laugh and all of that kind of stuff. But it also made me think about the way that back then, you didn't have the ability to just replay a track over and over and over and over and over and over again. The same way that you can now. You can just hit it on MP3, loop it, or whatever. So when you were trying to emulate something in your head, if you didn't have the record, it was very much about the approximation of what you could do, and you had to just sort of think, oh, yeah, this is what I'm trying to, and so you couldn't be as clinical. Whereas now it's much, much easier to do that. If you're trying to go for that sound, you'll go on Spotify, download a sound, listen to it, kind of go, yeah, I'm tweaking a bass drum to sound a bit like that, match them up, et cetera, et cetera. You can be much more forensic and precise about these things. Whereas previously you just had to rely on instinct again, which kind of had this up. I know, Gaz, I don't know what your feelings are about Genesis or about any of this stuff, but do any of that have any meaning?
Love Genesis. Yeah, love Genesis. Mama is an amazing track. The mood and the atmosphere, I think it's amazing. So I think, and I think Tony Banks is he's the genius in Genesis. I think he's the one who uses just such interesting chord. His chords are amazing, and his kind of like inversions and just the way he voices chords is just so unique and so special. So yeah, I'm a big fan, and I think that something like Mama is I don't know. I think it's a bit of a masterpiece of 80s. I think early 80s music tech and songwriting coming together in a really, really great way. It's been traditional to bash Genesis, or certainly the post Peter Gabriel Genesis, but
well, it was interesting, wasn't it? Because this album was the most successful one that they ever had. Sold.
What, more successful than Invisible Touch
in terms of charting, up to that point. Ooh. I mean, up to that point.
Oh, okay. A few days ago, I was in a friend's house who's got a really good 5.1 surround sound system, and we listened to Trick of the Tail in surround sound. I think about 7 or 8 years ago, they sort of remixed it in surround sound. And it sounded amazing. I got to be honest, it sounded amazing. And the whole kind of surround sound thing really worked with that music because it's so,
atmospheric,
expansive,
right? Well, also I presume there are less elements. There are quite less elements of it, I suppose, in some respects. But
yeah.
I'm glad I found. Sorry, go.
No, go.
We've got that kind of transatlantic delay thing happening, and I keep talking, and it's not catching up. But I'm glad we found someone who's into Genesis, because I mean they kind of passed me by because I guess I wasn't into that, and this was probably the first time I'd really heard them, and it was such a stylized thing. It was interesting.
Didn't he used to wear white shoes?
Well, he might have done. You can't hold that against a person, Mark. I mean, really.
You have to.
I mean, there are all sorts of crimes against fashion in all of our pasts, I'm sure, you know.
Yes. Yes, guys. Ask Carl.
So, you know,
just got a new pair of white shoes on for the Brits tonight.
Now, folks, we don't want anybody to get into trouble here. But yeah, I mean, just a few more. It was interesting. Kerrang reviewed this album. There were lots of quotes. There's an interesting Wikipedia page about it, actually. Apparently, Kerrang said, it's a Genesis album for people who normally hate Genesis. And great music for the masses. Because it was like Route 1 pop records. You know, they kind of, at one point, they obviously must have made a decision to go, right, let's just go for the charts, you know, because that's what they did. And they did it very successfully. I mean, I'm not sure all of it was to my taste. In fact, you know, I think outside of Genesis, Phil Collins has got some fairly heinous crimes to answer for against music.
That's all off that album. You know, it's not a typical Genesis song at all, but it's a brilliant single. And I don't care what anyone says. It's brilliant songwriting, wonderful production, amazing. Still sounds great today. You know, it's like
right. I'll have to go back and listen because this was the only one I really heard. But I did like Mama. The atmosphere of that definitely has a kind of something outside of the norm for them.
They were good. I mean, they're great videos, actually, I have to say. I thought they were really interesting videos because normally you would never, ever have got the chance to see inside of that camp. So I don't know where they came, you know, how they arrived online, how long they'll last, who posted them.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I think, you know, there are an awful lot of... And actually, you know, in Mr. Collins, I know he gets a bad press by a lot of people, but he was all right. He was a kind of genuine geezer.
Yeah, he seems like a nice bloke. And somebody was saying in the chat room earlier when I was playing this sort of pre-show that he's like his hands are really knackered because of all. I mean, I guess it's drumming or whatever. I mean, he's suffering from.
Back, isn't it?
Is it? It just seems such a sort of sad thing that he's sort of so physically kind of done in by his career.
Absolutely phenomenal drummer. I was introduced to him by another phenomenal prog drummer, so it was quite interesting because Collins was one of my drum heroes.
Yeah, great drummer, Brand X and all that as well.
Yeah, Brand X was a massive band for me, and a lot of the early Genesis. And what was quite interesting is that there was a little rivalry, but I was kind of this young whippersnapper who was into technology and into drums, and there was a little bit of rivalry between these two old school drummers as to kind of who could impress me the most, which is kind of a weird situation to be in when you're like 19 or 20. You've got these two kind of drum gods kind of going, yeah, well, you want to listen to this, and the other one going, no, don't stick in the UK, go to Brazil, learn your craft and whatnot. And one day I'll tell you the entire story because it's very, very funny and an abject lesson in knowing when to keep your gob shut.
Or not. That does sound interesting. But yeah, great. I mean, it's good period watching. I mean, it does get a little bit... I don't know who edited it or what it's done together, but it doesn't seem to have any kind of great narrative. But there are some brilliant moments in there. And I don't know, Mark, I'm guessing I'm guessing that you're not naturally gravitate towards Genesis as a music fan.
Oh. I mean... What can I say? I mean, I liked Genesis. Well, I like Peter Gabriel. I think he's done some very interesting things, and I like some of his music. It was hard for me to like Genesis as a kid growing up because at 15 years old, the Pistols and the Damned and the Clash and all those bands came along, and it just was not cool to be into Genesis. So there was a lot of peer pressure to say, well, you know, you can't go there. And then I've got a brother who's 2 years younger than me, who was absolutely so into Genesis and Supertramp that, you know, there was a kind of a sibling rivalry thing, like, no, his music's not cool and my music's cool and all this. I mean, in retrospect, listening to Supertramp were absolutely extraordinarily brilliant, and I missed that whole thing through being a punk growing up. So it may be that if I listen to Genesis, there might be something there for me that I've missed. But, you know, in general, I think I'm not taken by Phil Collins' voice, and that whole story about him splitting up with his wife might have created some you know, heart-wrenching tunes for people, but it didn't do it for me. So no.
Yeah, I suppose. I mean, I think the one for me, I can't remember what it was called, but it was one about the homeless girl that was just absolutely ghastly.
Oh, no, horrible. Yeah.
Think twice. I honestly,
horrible.
It's just being lectured to by a musical multimillionaire about charity.
Against All Odds was a tipping point, really. That was the... It was like, you are not coming back from the abyss now, are you? Come on, come back. But it wasn't going to happen.
No, well, but some great moments. I mean, you know, when you've got a career that spans that long, and you've released so much material, I mean, it can't all be, you know, critically acclaimed.
Yeah, and I'm Stevie Wonder's biggest fan, but I mean, come on, let's face it, Part-Time Lover, and what's that one?
I Just Called.
I Just Called.
Yeah.
But that's the thing about Genesis, though. Genesis were a band, and you had like 4 or 5 as it was, very strong individuals, you know, who would kind of counter each other, you know, and that's what I like when I listen to them. Even I think a much maligned album is We Can Dance, the last Phil Collins Genesis album, because that's after
single,
all of those horrible. Well, after all them that's not so great, but after all that horrible stuff, there still is this thing that the music has a quality to it that is born out of it being a band dynamic and not a solo artist dominating it, you know. And in fact, Phil Collins was still quite sort of insecure about his relationship with the other two, you know, that Mike Rutherford and Tony Banks were these kind of scheming arch kind of guys who, you know, so Phil still felt quite, you know, insecure even at that stage after all of Phil's solo success. I find that quite interesting, but you know, I just thought it's worth mentioning because
it's the sort of it's the public school boys, isn't it? They all go to Charterhouse.
Yeah, except Collins.
Well, Phil Collins didn't. Hackett didn't, did he? He was a council house kid.
No.
So
there we go.
Well,
or there we go, or perhaps not. I mean, I don't know. I've never been to Charterhouse or know anyone who ever went there, so I suppose it's a bit odd. It's just a perceived fact. Anyway, I think that's probably a good place to end. So if you want to check that out, if you look for Genesis, the Making the Mama album on YouTube, you'll be able to. Oops, that's not what I want to do. Oh dear, I'm about to play something wrong here. No, I'm gonna have to. It's all gone black, and there we go. Making the Mama album. Right there. And now my visual, well, it was done very well. Oh, there we go. Here it comes. Cute. Here I am. I'm back. Yeah, thank you very much, everybody, for watching. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining us. Like I say, hopefully we'll have Mr. Jem Godfrey in at some point if he's available. And Rich Hilton is off on tour. So he's going to be away for a while. But hopefully we'll hear about his jolly adventures as he tours Germany for 3 weeks in a couple of weeks' time. So that's it for Sonic Talk number 302. I want to say thank you very much first of all, say thanks to Dave Spears, GeForceSoftware.com. Do check them out for your virtual instrument needs. And a new video that Dave is going to be posting, or has just posted.
Yeah, I'm going to try and get that up over the next day or so. Yeah, definitely.
Okay, brilliant.
Thank you very much.
Thank
All good fun.
you.
And I've got to go because I've got a visitor.
Okay, thank you, Dave. And also, thanks to Gaz Williams. Thanks for making it in there. I know it's not always possible, but we're very pleased to have had a brief amount of time with you. Next award dinner, we'll see you again, and hopefully, if it's falls on a Wednesday. And good luck in the rehearsals and project. Thank you very much. Oh dear, headphones came out.
Thank you.
Cheers, mate. And finally, thank you very much to Mark Tinley over there. La Finale.
You're very welcome. I'd like to remind people to go to tvmaniamusic.com where you can buy an extraordinarily expensive box set of vinyl of the TV Mania project, which I did with Nick and Warren about 15 years ago or more or something.
Brilliant.
And there's other things that we're doing at the moment, which will be showing up there shortly as well.
Well, Thank you very much for that, Mark. And hopefully, when it comes to be a bit closer to the time, we can perhaps talk about some of the sessions and listen to some stuff. Maybe go through a bit of it if that's all right with you lot.
Sounds like a plan. I'll see who I can talk to about this as well. Because
great.
Well, yes.
Thank you very much. Right.
Okay, you're very welcome. Thank you.
And that's it for Sonic Talk number 302. See you later.